Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Part 5 Vedas are Vedas and Vedanta at variance with each other. Whatever is said in the earlier portions of Vedam in Karma Kandam, all that seem to be annulled and set aside by the subsequent Jnana Kandam of the Upanishads. In Karma Kandam, we are directed and taught so many devotional procedures. Later in the Upanishad, the same Vedam declares that the one doing puja to gods is an idiot. He is as good as an animal. This is funny. The same Vedam in the end is totally contradicting what it says in the early stages. The Karma Kandam and Jnana Kandam seems to differ so much that Vedam nowadays seems to mean the Karma Kandam and Vedantam, that is the Upanishad, shall never meet. In Gita, God has enlarged upon Vedantam in all its varied aspects and applications. While doing so, he has soundly criticized the Vedas' compulsions of Karma Kandam. If you think that it is Buddha and Mahavira who were highly critical of the Veda, think again. The very God in the form of Krishna Paramatma has blasted those who are too preoccupied with their conduct of Nitya Karma, Anushtanas, Yagnas and Tarpanas and so on. Whatever is said in the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita, 42 to 45, I am going to quote now. Flowery speech is uttered by the unwise, taking pleasure in the eulogizing words of the Vedas. O Arjuna, saying, there is nothing else. Life is heaven is also transitory. After the fruits of the god, actions are exhausted. One has to come to this earth plane once again, full of desires, having heaven as their goal, leading to yet new births as a result of their works. They continue to prescribe various methods abounding in specific actions for the attainment of pleasure and power. Once you are so attached to pleasure, position, and power, you can never be weaned away. For such, even the slightest interest in meditation and samadhi can be ruled out. Vedas deal with the three gunas or attributes of nature. You be above those three attributes. O Arjuna, liberate and free yourself from the pairs of opposites. Ever remain in the quality of sattva, freed from the thoughts of acquisition, accumulation, and preservation. Ad infinitum, ad nauseam. In chapter 9, shlokas 20 and 21, he repeats this advice of guarding against the tendency to amass and accumulate. In chapter 11, shloka 48, he clearly says that he is unattainable by Veda Adhyayana and Yagna. I am sure that you people are likely to get annoyed with me that having sung the praise of Vedas for so many days, if I now talk against Veda Adhyayana and conduct of Yagnas, there is no self-contradiction here. We in our normal state are totally incapable of stopping our minds from its oscillations and do dhyanam and meditation. Then, to identify, comprehend, and understand the true nature of the Atma is all rather too tall an order. All the Veda Karma Anushtanam are all there to slowly, gradually build us up to the required level of maturity. As long as we think of the worldly life as real, all that the Vedam does is to keep us well cared for and protected from going astray. We pray and beseech many devatas for our and our family's welfare. Since we think of the world as real, we have to take care of not only ourselves but also others of the family, society, country, and so on. This interest area slowly expands to include the humanity as a whole and all the gods too. Through the gods, we wish the welfare of all the life forms. As the world is real, all the devatas are real. Heaven is also real. A happy life here should be followed by a happy life in heavens too. There is nothing wrong in wishing for and looking forward to all this. But the problem will be if and when we stop at that. Wanting happiness here, happiness there, and happiness everywhere leads to Punarapi Jananam, Punarapi Maranam, Punarapi Janani Jatare Sayanam, Iha Samsare, Bahudustare, Kripaya Pahe, Pahi Murare. Of Bhajagovindam, of the cycle of repeated births and deaths only. It will be like losing the sight of the forest for being too engrossed in the sight of the tree. We will be never coming to realize that our very nature is one of happiness in our search for happiness. It will be like the story of the musk deer, which searched everywhere, not knowing that the fragrance attracting him was its own umbilical secretion. At the starting point, since we are not able to think of this world with all its sensual attractions as not true, Vedam tells us as follows. Okay, think of the world as true. These are the do's and these are the don'ts. Since it is not easily possible to think of the one Parabrahmam as a shapeless, formless, nameless, attributeless entity, revere and pray to this galaxy of gods representing every known and unknown thing of nature. While praying to these gods, doing all these karmas of puja, punaskara, tarpana and yagna, we should be arriving at a condition of such realization and comprehension that everything else drops off or comes to an automatic standstill. Instead of praying to many gods, we should be arriving at the understanding of Advaita Jnana, that you, me, the world, and God are not separate but one. Actually, there is no me, mine, and I. It is for this realization that clarity of focusing of mind are required, and as a prerequisite for which are all the karmas ordained. All the upasana and karma anushtanam is to be done with this clarity, for which we have to train our mind not to run after sense gratification only. This is not being done only for some temporary advantages. We should be clear that we are not doing business with the devatas looking for deals and bargains. I give you ahuti in yagna and you do me a favor is not the contract with the devatas. We are training our minds to be able to do nishkamya karma. Otherwise, we will be nowhere near the final truth. Even if we land up in heaven, it will be only an extension of the business exchanges. You have to come back to the earth again, go through the mill again, graduate from being selfish to becoming large hearted. To stagnate and not progress is being stupid. First, it's a mistake to say that I will not do the karma anushtana. Later, it is a blunder to get stuck in the groove of karma, anushtana, and reaping the benefits. Nowadays, there are many who want to go to the post graduation and doctorate without the primary and secondary education. They say, who needs all these yagnas and adhyayana and things like that? I will directly read the Upanishads and do pranayama and meditation. Result is that people can do mental gymnastics of discussing high sounding philosophies. In experience, none of them seem to have evolved into experienced, quite peaceful and dispassionate Atma Gyanis. To leave the initial preparatories undone, can only wrap the personality. If this is a mistake in one extreme, it is another mistake to get stuck with karma at the other end of the spectrum. You have to go through the first class, second class, and so on, and then only graduate to the university degree level of a Bachelor of Arts. If you are adamant that you must go to BA straight away, nobody is going to permit that, and even if you are permitted, you are likely to be shaky for not being grounded properly in the basics. It is another classic blunder to keep failing in the basics and refuse to progress. In olden times, say at the time of Adi Shankara or even before, at the time of Mahabharata, there were more of those who were stuck in the groove of karma. Perival calls them the karmadars. That is why Adi Shankara fought with Mandana Mishra by way of debate only. This is the reason that Sri Krishna censures those who are stuck in the groove of karma, that is gratification. What is seemingly a criticism of the Vedas is only against those refusing to grow into maturity, who instead of understanding the purpose of the Vedas have remained stagnating. He can never censure the Vedas. Vedas are his breath. It is to save and protect the Vedas that he has taken birth repeatedly on this earth. If he comes as an avatara now, he would take on all these upstarts aspiring to be precocious, that is, those who give no value to all the Veda karmas, but want to take up discussion of the Upanishad straight away. Actually, I feel that he would come down more heavily on these presumptuous fellows. It seems that he would be harsher now than he was with the stuck with karma characters, because this is a greater mistake. Anyhow, everyone has to go through the basics. If a person fails in the lower classes with special coaching, he or she can be pushed up. But when someone says that I will start with BA, he has no chance, nor can you bring him to senses. There is no conflict between Vedas and Vedantam. To prepare us for the latter Vedantam, there is the earlier part of Vedas. Yes, it is this worldly. It is very much concerned with all the deities and devatas. We, the world, including everything that is there in this world. You, me, sun, moon, mountains, oceans, rivers, and deities are all seemingly different and in reality one and the same. So, all the prayers, karmas, yagas, and tarpanams are all ways of reinforcing this in our minds and being. Thus, the Anushchana will eventually take us to the complete realization of Vedantam and Jnana Kandam. The thought comes to my mind that when a person gives up the karma anushchana, not only does he deny himself the benefits of Veda Adhyayanam and the effect of chanting of mantras, whatever benefit the world was to draw from him and through him is also denied to the world. For him who has taken sannyasa, the world may be unreal, but for the others, it is real enough to cause plenty of problems. So, is it not a loss for the world when someone takes up sannyasa and becomes a jnani? However, on further analysis, it is clear that a jnani does much favor to the world by his very being a jnani. He does not have to take part in a yagnam because his whole life is a sacrifice. He gives his self as ahuti in the yagna of life. Whether he thinks of this world as Maya or God's play Leela, there is an endless flow of benefit to the society through such great souls. Why do people flock to him like ants around jaggery? Though he has delinked himself from the society, society does not leave him or, or her. They leave one family and the whole world becomes their family. The reason for the Gyani's popularity is the fact that God's grace tangibly flows through them to the people. Their very proximity, or what is called the Sannidhanam in Sanskrit, is so powerfully beneficial. Without any intention on their part, that is, without sankalpa, their very glance is capable of causing tremendous good. When they have reached a level of understanding that there is no God other than their self, they automatically become hugely, immensely beneficial without an iota of pride in them. One man reaching that level is so useful to the world that there is no action required to be done by him or her. There are people who divide the Hindu religion into Veda Karma Anushtana and Vedanta as though they are entirely apart, not only in the historical time but also in content. They level a criticism against this religion on the following lines as described hereinafter. These Hindus have no concern for their own or for the world. Their main concern is individual salvation. Jnana, yoga, and samadhi are all for personal aggrandizement. They do not care for love, brotherhood, and social consciousness as done by Christ, Muhammad, Nabi, and Buddha. But this is far from the truth. It is wrong to divide the Hindu religion as though the Veda and Vedanta are two different portions, not complementary to each other. The same man who becomes the Sarva Sankalpa Rahita, Sarva Arambha Parityagi, meaning the one who has given up all intentions and initiatives, in latter life is the one who was part and parcel of the society as the student, teacher, Brahmin, farmer, carpenter, black or goldsmith, poet, dancer, artist, architect, sculptor and soldier, and doing or supporting the conduct of all yagna karmas, festivals and religious celebrations. After he has become a reclusive renunciate too, the world stands to benefit a lot from him. So the criticism that I quoted in the previous paragraph is not only fallacious but gives rise to another question. What is more important, individual salvation or collective social welfare? For the latter aim of collective social welfare, there are enough non religious organizations at various levels. But I am not asking this question either as to what is more important for a religion. The question that I am asking is this: if a religion does not let you personally experience what is God and become a jnani, who needs that religion? How is it of any relevance whether such a religion remains or vanishes? To bring every sadhak to that level of jnana at the end is the purpose of all the preparatory karma upasana. To reach complete oneness without any differentiation, whatsoever the path has varna ashrama dharma of 100,000 variations. The destination being all inclusive whiteness, the way has all the color combinations of the authoritative pecking order. To stop only at karma with all its differentiations is a blunder. When the Purva Mimamsakars give over emphasis to observations of karma and say that the Upanishad portion on Jnanam is meaningless, it is them, the karmadars, that Krishna goes after, though it looks as though he is ridiculing the Veda itself. In truth, he censures the Vadarata, that is, the pseudo Vedic experts of the initial portions of the Vedas, who are not aspiring and are making no efforts for the jnanam of self realization. Initially, karma is required. That is, we should do all our duties as ordained by the Vedas, knowing fully well that so doing is the first step in the ladder towards the perfect state of Atma Anubhuti, of actionlessness. Similarly, initially we need to pray to the Devatas as a devotee, knowing that to be the starting point so as to reach a state of understanding that the Devata, the object of worship, and the subject devotee doing the worship are one and the same thing. For the worldly affairs to function without overlap and interference, we should be doing our duties with as much compartmentalization and decentralization as required for the effectiveness. But attitudinally, there should be no inferiority or superiority complexes. The tire pressure in the landing gear is as important as million other parts in the aircraft. So also every individual of the society is equally important to the society. This awareness, humility and humbleness should be the undercurrent while being involved very actively. Veda Adhyanam and Veda Karma Anushtanam are all required to reach the undivided state of oneness in which even Veda is not required. Flower has to be there for a fruit to come into being. However beautiful the flower may be, it has to wither away for the fruit to come into being. To say that I will obviate the need to be a flower and directly go to being a fruit is not logical. Nowadays, those who claim that they will bypass the Vedika Anushtanam and go directly to Vedantam are that type of people who want to become a fruit without having been a flower. This is not practical. Simultaneously, it is also stupid not to aspire for becoming a fruit and say that they will enjoy becoming the flower repeatedly. In everything, you need a sense of proportions. As said in Gita in Brihadaranyaka Upanishad 2, 4.3.22, it says that for the one who has realized the Atma Swarupa, for him the Veda is no more Veda, Devatas are no more deities, Brahmins are no more Brahmins, Chandalan is no more Chandalan. You know the reason why. When we say Shruti, it refers to the Vedas, inclusive of Samhitai, Brahmanam and Aranyakam. Gita is not Shruti. It is said to be a part of Smriti. I will talk about Smritis in detail when I talk about Dharma Shastra as part of the 14 Vidyas. Gita, that is Smriti, says, if Veda Karma and Upasana does not take you to Jnana, then it's a waste. The three authorities Brahmanas are Shruti, Smriti and Puranas. Out of them, Puranas too in many places, stopping with karma, anushtana and not proceeding towards jnana anubhava has been roundly castigated. For example, when the rishis assembled in the Tarukavana, making much ado about conduct of yagnas, ignoring the need for attainment of jnana and realization, are taken to task and their pride destroyed by Parmeshwara himself is highlighted in many of the Puranas. Similarly, in Bhagavatam, there is an occasion where the innocent Rishi Patni's wives easily identify that it is Mahavishnu who is born as Krishna, whereas their husbands doing the yajna are unaware of this fact. But when it comes to the authority of the Brahmanas, first is Shruti, then Smriti, and then only Puranas. In the above para, I spoke about how remaining in the preparatory peripherals and not going to the crux of the issue, that is Atma Anubhuti or Jnanam, has been roundly criticized in the Puranas. You are likely to observe, okay, that is all right. After all, what you call the Smriti is all Vedantam, and it is but natural that not endeavoring to Jnana is likely to be criticized in Smriti, Upanishad, Vedantam, including Brahma Sutra and Bhagavad Gita, which are all part of Jnana Kandam only. Is there any place or occasion where such a point is made in Karma Kandam itself? Your question will be quite warranted, and I was just about to discuss this very point. That is, I was going to talk about how the Karma Kandam itself, thinking of karma as an end in itself, has been condemned. Before that, let me touch upon Bhagavad Gita once again. In one place, he tells Arjuna that it is good to conduct many yajna mentioned in the Vedas, knowing correctly the purpose of each one of them. Having said so, he confirms that all such karma and anushtana ends in jnanam. Sarvam karma kilam partha jnanena parisampyate. Bhagavad Gita chapter 4 32 to 33, meaning that all actions of karma kandam in their entirety, O Partha, end in jnana. This idea is emphasized in karma kandam itself. In Taittiriya Katakam, first prashna, last anuvagam, fourth sentence says, the person who does the karma anushtana without ever making any effort to know Ishvara or not progressing towards an understanding of Atmajnana, he is like one putting wood in fire and creating smoke only. He is an idiot. He will never know his Atma Swarupa. When you do yajna, the self should be cooked, meaning that you should be becoming that much a more matured person. To cook in Sanskrit is pakvam. In Tamil, this word pakvam has come to mean well cooked for the right duration and with the right ingredients. The fire of the yajna is meant for cooking oneself into the state of awareness of Atma Jnana. Otherwise, what is the use of doing all this, says Vedam itself. That too the Karma Kandam portion of Vedam itself. Otherwise, the net result is only creation of more smoke if you do not graduate to the idea of sacrificing the very karma pala of the yajna in the fire of the yajna itself. You have learnt a sweet nil. In the fire of Brahma Atma is to be given as the ahuti or havis. In the fire of samyam, that is the control of sensory prevarication, sensory expectation should be offered as the ahuti. Of the 5 pranas of prana, apana, vyana, udana and samana, each should be offered as the ahuti in the next fire. That is the ultimate level of total self-sacrifice of pranahuti, becoming the purnahuti. If a person does not understand this and goes on and on with more and more materialistic and action-filled yajnas, such a person has no brain, says the Veda. Where does his buddhi go? It will go like the smoke created by him, blackening whatever it touches. If you sacrifice each and every one of your actions as an offering to God, not only yajna karya, but its fruits too, not only that, but all your actions, thoughts, your very breath as an offering to God, including whatever comes to you from the world, including name and fame and wealth, then karma, instead of binding, you will relieve you of ties and knots. That is nishkamya karma, done for the pleasure and satisfaction of God. That will automatically usher you into the state beyond the ordinary mundane quid pro quo. Yajnam as a word points out this only. It is translated as sacrifice in English. Yagam means tyagam. When you offer anything to any god and place it in Yaga Kundam, the last mantra is Na Mama. That means not mine, enadu illai, mera nahi, mana ledu in English, Tamil, Hindi, and Telugu respectively. You cannot take back something put in the fire. You can cancel any other action of yours. You have to put your ahankaram and mamakaram, me, my, mine, I, and ego in the fire so that it just goes. Ego goes. This is the high end of yaga and yajnas, not only material benefits and attaining of heavens. Are you not a fool if such cheap thrills like Ayur, Arogya, Aishwarya, and Swarga Prapti are the aims compared to self realization? There is no contradiction between Karma Kandam and Jnana Kandam. In many places in Karma Kandam itself, its limitations have been mentioned and Jnana Kandam has been praised. There are some such suktas of high ennobling thought content as Nasadiya Suktam, Purusha Suktam, and Trayambaka Mantram, which occur in the Samhita portion itself and not in Upanishads. As against this, there are some counterpoints of important karmas being mentioned in the Upanishads, such as Nasiketa Agni. Even some of the often repeated mantras used in karma anushtana are taken from Taittiriya Upanishad. If the karma kandam of Jnana Kanda and Jnana Kandam were contradictory to each other, such mutual accommodation would not have been there. The idea was and has always been to progress from karma to Jnana Kandam. If you do karma as an offering to God, that itself is the key for the opening of the gates of Jnana, says the Bhagavad Gita. The basis for this statement is in the first of the 10 Upanishads, Ishavasya. Even if you do Veda karma for hundreds of years, it will not bind you as long as you do this with the clarity that all your actions are only your humble offerings in God's Sannidhi. So, it is wrong to think that all Upanishad in anti-karma is anti-karma. Karma, as I said earlier, is also not the end in itself. For the welfare of the family, clan, society, and so on, even if you do Devata Upasana, that is also not the be-all and end-all. You have to come to this understanding that no me, no world, no Devata, no nobody else, but Sarvam Brahmamayam Jagat. When you come to this understanding, Vedam will also disappear, says the Veda. What is Vedam? It is the law of God. That law has to be obeyed by all people who are the citizens of the world, but a Jnani has physically, mentally, morally, essentially, and intrinsically has reached a stage of non-differentiation with the eternal truth. He does not have to repeatedly refer to the law as laid by God. For him, Vedam is no more the Vedam. The irony is that for us too, the Vedam is not sacrosanct. But the further irony is that we do not even know the meaning of this Jnanam or how it smells even. If we never get to know the Karma Kandam is a vehicle for carrying us to the Para Vidya of Upanishads, then Vedam of Karma Kandam becomes something like history and geography only, another Apara Vidya. Like pure science and applied science, Veda will become applied Veda for all practical purposes. A person who uses Vedas for such temporary advantages is like an animal, says the Upanishad. When the Jnani identifies himself with the source of all creations, then he has become one with all Devatas too. Even before he became a Jnani, even when he was a devotee of a Devata, the undercurrent in his mind was always that that Devata is non-different from the Atma in him and everybody else. Actually, a Jnani will never think that he is any different from others, and so he will never have the pride that he is a Jnani. So nobody is an Ajnani in his eyes because he follows the advice Drishtim Jnanamayam Kritva Pashyata Brahmamayam Jagat. In Tamil it says பார்வையை புனிதம் ஆக்கிக் கொண்டு பார்ப்பது அனைத்தும் இறைவன் என்று தெரிந்து கொள். To say it in English, having sanctified your vision, better know yourself that all that is seen is the same God. The converse is also true. That is, no one is a Jnani in the eyes of an Ajnani. There is another aspect of this issue. The one who prays to God as a Devata, thinking the Devata or deity to be completely different from himself, is like an animal for the Devatas, says Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. The word for animal in Sanskrit is Pasu. Pasu is only a cow. Pasu is also a cow. He is not just an animal, but a very useful animal like a milch cow. It has an in-depth meaning. He is like an animal not only because, though being a human with a thinking brain, he is not using his sixth sense, there is some more logic. Let me tell you the inner meaning of it. Why do we take care of the cow? So that it may give us the milk. For that reason, we look after it, feed it with grass, oil cakes, cotton seeds, and so on. Similarly, we give ahuti in homam to the devatas, and in turn, they take care of us with rains, favorable weather, and various other benefits. Though these devas are superior to human beings, they are also not recipients of total jnana. Their happiness is also limited. They cannot get even a fraction of the Brahmanandam or Atmanandam that a human being attains to when he becomes a Jnani. Actually, if you remain an Ajnani, you become the favorite of the Devatas. Devatanam Priya Brahastavya. We will analyze the comparative merits and demerits of being a sacred cow of the Devatas further. Om Shri Mahaperiva Sharanam.